This is coming from Mike Ybarra. So, I mean, that guy has some pretty hot takes. Basically, he says that Sony sees Valve as the primary living room competitor, with Steam Machine launching in early 2026. Well, that's already out of date. Potentially influencing Sony's reported decision to stop porting flagship single-player games to PC. And then here's the quote. They, Sony, see the last nail in the coffin with Xbox and the chum there. Hope it turns around. He was talking about PlayStation first-party games like Ghost of Yotei no longer coming to PC, according to Jason Schreier. And then he said, most important, they view Valve as a major new competitor. Valve will enter the living room and console market with the Steam Machine sometime this year, hopefully, fingers crossed. And then he said, shipping good exclusive games matters. It's not rocket science, the former Xbox executive concluded, suggesting that the age of true console exclusives may have returned. So I got two questions for you guys, and then we've got some weird Valve stuff to sprinkle in here. Do you believe that Valve Steam Machine is poised to be the primary living room competitor? And the second question is, do you think Sony's decision to stop rumored decision to stop publishing PC titles is related to the Steam Machine at all? Russ, start us off. What do you think, man?
So first question, is it going to be a primary living room competitor? Yeah, I definitely see that happening. But I got to say, we'll get to this news later, but I think that the Project Helix thing has really gotten me excited for Xbox all over again. The official, hey, this is also going to be a PC. We obviously don't have all the data for it, but that leads me to think that it's not just going to be a Sony versus Valve thing at that point. I think that all three are going to be competing in their own way. As far as whether or not, not publishing PC titles, you guys probably already know just from everything I've said that I love that they were coming to PC, and so this is a big bummer for me. Whether or not it's related to the Steam Machine, I hadn't really thought about that until you asked. I'd always been thinking it was an Xbox thing, and because Xbox was going PC, that's why they didn't want to have PC titles anymore. So I don't know how much of a dent Steam Machine is making into Sony's. How much is the Steam Machine making Sony stay up at night? I don't think much at all. If I was to say, I don't think that they are really that big of a factor. Yes, this guy is saying that this is a factor, but I don't think Sony's thinking that.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you, Russ. I don't think that the Steam Machine, I wouldn't say that they don't know about it, but I would say Nintendo would say that they don't know what the Steam Machine is. They don't care. They just put their head in the sand. But Sony, I'm sure that they know about it, but I don't think that they care, because the people who are going to buy that system, they're either not going to play a PlayStation game anyway, or they're not going to buy a PlayStation anyway, or they already have one. It's going to be for a very specific subset of customer, and so I don't think that they are the primary living room competitor. But ETA Prime, what do you think, man?
So I agree with Russ. With the Xbox, we've had a rumor that it was going to support PC games, or basically just be a PC. New Xbox coming out. We finally got the Helix name on it, and I think that's where Sony was coming from right there. And to tell you the truth, I've got a PlayStation. I haven't bought the first party games on PlayStation. I wait till they come out on PC.
Same.
And it's I don't know. I think I don't think that they're scared of the Steam Machine at all.
Fair enough. What about you, Rich?
I've got mixed opinions on this. I think so. The way that Mike Ibarra phrased this in the tweet, you can kind of interpret it a few different ways. Sorry. One of them is Valve a bigger competitor to Sony than Microsoft is in the gaming space? And to me, the answer is yes. Unquestionably, Valve is a bigger competitor when it comes to video games than Microsoft to Sony. I think that is almost without question. Is Steam Machine a bigger living room threat than Xbox? I think that's still very much up for debate. I expect Project Helix, even with kind of all the riffraff we've seen so far with Helix, I expect that it will sell more than the Steam Machine will. I don't know that, we'll see if that actually comes true, but my expectation is that globally it's going to sell more than Steam Machine. Now, Sony stopping publishing PC titles, I kind of think this is a little simpler. I think the first factor is that they didn't get as much profit as they were expecting. I think that is the first factor. I think the second factor is that they are trying, whether you agree with them or not, they are trying to protect the PlayStation brand. And that means exclusives, right? That means, the way I see it, they fear that Microsoft's decision to start bringing games to PC is part of what brought Microsoft to where they are today, and they want to avoid that. So that's the second factor. Steam Machine having Xbox games and having Sony games, or Xbox having Sony games, I wouldn't say it's not a factor. I just would say it's probably the third factor at best. That's where I would put that.
Carrie, do you think it has something to do with them just not selling very well? Or do you think it's because they don't want to see their first party games on other platforms that have like other console platforms with quotes?
I think that they want to have their cake and eat it too. There was a report from some analysts, group analysts, that came out today that
the
said
GameIndustry.biz report.
Yeah.
I can provide some color to that too.
Yeah.
So yes, there was a report, and then there was an opinion piece that came after that. So there's a GameIndustry.biz report that basically says Sony's PC ports didn't do well, but that's based on the timing of those PC ports. Personally, I took issue with the way they reported this. So this is based on a Newzoo analysis. And they said the closer it was to release, the better it did. But I think the data is really skewed, right? So there are a couple ways to look at this. I think of this as three different categories. One is live service games, right? Those are ported day and date, and they have a larger PC market share than the other games. This is this first category that I'm describing. And so you can say that they have a larger market share because they were day and date, which I think is what Newzoo is basically suggesting without saying that. But more likely they are also a larger market share because these have more synergy with PC, right? Like these being live service games. These are games that you want to play day one if you're going to play them at all sorts of things, right? And then the second category I'm going to describe, and this GI.biz doesn't go into these categories. This is me describing it. The second category are games that were delayed longer, right? So like Horizon Zero Dawn, Days Gone. These are games that took longer. God of War 2018, Spider-Man 1. These are games that took longer to come to PC. Those games actually did better than the third category, which is games that took less time to come to PC. These are the games that GI.biz describes as the games that don't do as well, despite them coming sooner than those first wave of games. So Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, those are games that came sooner but did worse. And my theory is that how well these single player games did actually have nothing to do with release timing. They have to do with novelty, right? So when Sony games first started coming to PC, it was novel. People wanted to vote with their wallet. They bought them immediately. By the time Spider-Man 2 came around, maybe I didn't finish Spider-Man 1. Maybe I don't care enough to vote with my wallet. Maybe it's not that big of a deal to me. I wait for a sale like PC gamers are going to do. That's my theory on why Wave 2, Wave 3, whatever of these single player games didn't do quite as well.
Yeah, so I'm along the same lines, but a bit different. I also think that there was a second party Wave games that also sold just as poorly as first party, if I remember correctly, as another data point. But correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't matter. Regardless of anything, I do agree with you that Sony was like testing the waters, and because it was such a novelty, they're like, man, we released this game 2 years later, we made all this money. So they got this expectation of what they were going to get. They started releasing a bit earlier and not getting that. I do, however, feel in my gut that Sony is doing themselves a disservice by not wanting to cannibalize their own platform sales, because they are spending money on marketing for a single platform and then not spending any marketing whatsoever on the PC side. They usually have like a blog post or it's just word of mouth. So people don't know about it. And no one really, after the novelty phase part goes away from it, everyone starts to, if the zeitgeist isn't there and there's no hype for it and there's no marketing, it kind of just like whatever. It's only if people want it. So you're as that started going away, they, in my opinion, they did not want to release day and date. And because they did not want to release day and date, and they had like, there's only 10% or whatever that we're getting, screw that. We're not going to do that. And I think that's what's happened. However, I don't think that it's forever. I think, as things start getting tough again, and they have to start whittling down studios and, laying off people, and then they're like, oh man, we could really use some money. But then they're going to be in the same position, right? Like Ghost of Yotei was like, maybe be 2 years late. And then they're like, oh, now we only got, X amount of dollars for whatever. I'm like half and half with you, Rich. I do 100% agree. The day and date stuff for Helldivers 2 sold 12 million on Steam and 5 million units on PlayStation 5. So there's also a part of me that Sony is genuinely like, oh crap, what if we get outsold on another platform? Like there is
Oh,
that
right.
open worry. Like, crap, we just got beat by someone that's not us. And I think that is a kind of a worry when where they're looking like, oh, that's just gas games. Gas games have to do that. We need the money. And, we need crossplay and whatnot. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of things going on. Ultimately, to your point, though, Rich, I don't think that the initial money matches what they were expecting, and they don't want to release day and date. So these two things are now mutually exclusive, and now there's where we are. So it is what it is. Yeah, I just think that's where we are.
I also think that it is a combination of everything that you guys were just saying about how much money they were making from the PC ports, but also the fact that Microsoft said our next console is going to be able to play games from Steam. And if you can play every PlayStation game and every Xbox game and every PC game all on one box, why would you buy a PlayStation other than because your friends are playing games on PlayStation? But then you look at PlayStation and Microsoft or Xbox, they both have Discord integration. So like even then, like it makes it really hard to justify it. So I do understand why they would take a step back. But, let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. This was just a small part of my podcast, the Nerd Nest podcast. And if you enjoyed it, then do me a favor and click on that like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it, then I think you should check out the link in the description down below the like button. It's going to take you to the full podcast so you can check out the entire conversation and a whole lot more. If that sounds good, I hope to see you over there. Stay rad, and thanks for watching.